The guilty verdict against Golden Dawn could not bring back her son, but for the mother of murdered rapper Pavlos Fyssas, it was vindication. On the street outside the Supreme Court, thousands gathered. They are not innocent, read this banner. Nazis in jail, read another. And when the verdict was announced, there were tears of joy and applause and relief. Fyssas' murder led to the arrest and investigation of Golden Dawn's leadership for dozens of violent crimes against immigrants and leftists. These were not isolated incidents, the court decided, but a pattern of behavior by Golden Dawn members who took their orders from the top. On Wednesday, the party's 18 members of parliament elected in 2012 were all convicted of membership in a criminal organization. And the most senior, including party leader Nikos Michaloliakos, convicted of forming that organization.
Two Islamic State terrorists known as the Beatles appeared in a federal court in the U.S. state of Virginia. They have been charged for their alleged involvement in the beheadings of American hostages in Syria. Alexander Koti and El Shafi El Sheikh have been under U.S. military guard in Iraq for the past year and are now in FBI custody. The two grew up in Britain and were UK citizens, but British government has withdrawn their citizenship.
Kote and al-Sheikh were members of the notoriously brutal ISIS hostage-taking cell that became known as the Beatles, a name their captives gave to them because of their British accents. The defendants are charged with terrorism offenses related to hostage-taking and killing of 4 Americans, as well as citizens of Great Britain and Japan.
Seven years after the Westgate mall attack trial happened, Chief Magistrate Francis Ndai read out his verdict over 3.5 hours.
So the prosecution's case is as follows. It was given by 46 witnesses.
Prosecution lawyers used call logs of telephone conversations between the 3 accused and the gunmen who were killed in the 4-day siege in 2013. 2 men, Mohammed Abdi and Hussein Hassan, were found guilty of conspiring to support the attack and having materials linked to terrorist activities.
In the present case, I find that there is a strong link for the first and fourth accused persons in their communication to the attackers that they were involved in the conspiracy.
One of the accused, Liban Abdallah Omar, was acquitted of all charges.
On to our next story now, Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya has been placed on Russia's wanted list. Now, according to the Russian Interior Ministry, Tikhanovskaya is wanted on criminal charges. The Russian state news agency reported that Tikhanovskaya faces a charge in Belarus over making public calls to harm the country's security, including calls to seize power. Belarus, however, has not announced Tikhanovskaya as wanted. According to reports, Tikhanovskaya's office claimed that the update was of little interest to them. The 38-year-old leader claimed victory against authoritarian leader Alexander Lukashenko in Belarus's presidential election and has accused him of rigging the vote. She fled to Lithuania soon after the August 9th election, citing pressure from the authorities. She has recently met European leaders, including French President Emmanuel Macron and German Chancellor Angela Merkel.
The Federal Health Minister and the head of the Infectious Disease Institute held a joint news conference today given the situation. 4,000 cases in the last daily collection of information, up from under 3,000 the previous day. The Federal Health Minister warns of a big and dangerous jump forward, and he said that Germany had until now relatively well managed the situation, but that it was up to German citizens across the country to not gamble away what they had gained by following the safety precautions that have been put in place. And the head of the Infectious Disease Institute even said, as you were saying earlier in the broadcast, that cases could spike at 10,000 a day, which would be a very, very big jump.
10 million people across the north of England are to be plunged into a strict lockdown on Monday, meaning restaurants and pubs will be forced to shut. Boris Johnson will announce the tighter measures for Liverpool, Newcastle and Manchester as coronavirus cases in those cities soar. The news comes after Nicola Sturgeon ordered the hospitality industry to close in many areas of Scotland and to restrict the serving of alcohol.
The measures on hospitality are intended to be enforced for 16 days from this Friday at 6 p.m. to Sunday the 25th of October.
Next week, the government will announce a simplified 3 tiers of lockdown. The first level is where restrictions are currently at, with the rule of 6 and a 10 p.m. curfew on pubs. The second level adds in a ban on households mixing, and the third level closes bars and restaurants.
More restrictions could soon be coming across France. Not only are new cases on the rise, with France recording a record 18,746 of them on Wednesday, but beds are slowly filling up in intensive care units and pushing hospitals to the brink. The cities of Lille, Lyon, and Toulouse are all close to meeting the government's criteria for maximum alert. That includes areas where at least 30% of ICU beds are devoted to patients with COVID-19 and that feature high ratios of infections, especially among older people. The country's 2 largest cities, Paris and Marseille, are already on high alert, with the capital seeing bars and sports clubs closed earlier this week. Health Minister Olivier Véran is expected to announce further measures across France on Thursday afternoon.
When flash floods tore through France and Italy's Alpine regions last Friday, they swept away everything in their path. Now, rescue workers are having to undertake an especially unpleasant task: recovering heavily decomposed human remains from Alpine cemeteries. According to local authorities, some have been carried from the French mountains all the way down to the Italian coast. 5 days after massive downpours triggered the floods and landslides, many villages are still unreachable as roads and bridges have been washed away. President Emmanuel Macron met with local residents on Wednesday. The region hasn't seen such a severe event in more than a century, and experts say the Balkans are likely to be hit next.
SIU confirming that it's going to investigate the deep cleaning tenders worth around 20 million rand in the city of Johannesburg. Now, this is as more information emerges about alleged procurement irregularities in the city. I can also tell you that ENCA has secured some explosive reports which contain further evidence.
Well, there were 4 tenders that were issued to companies for the deep cleaning of Johannesburg property company infrastructure. So we're looking at the taxi ranks, there's some office buildings as well. You would have recalled early in those days of the lockdown as well as the state of disaster, we saw these pictures of workers with masks and outfits busy spraying down all manner of places and scrubbing them so we get this deep cleaning and sanitization to rid us of the virus. Well, it's those tenders amounting to about 20 million rand.
A suspected toxic spill along a beach on Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula has killed 95% of marine life on the surrounding seabed. Scientists said that nearly all marine life on the seabed of the Avacha Bay has been killed, with only a small number of large fish and shrimp and crabs surviving. The scientists believe that the contaminated area is much larger than the parts that they have examined. They also stated that the remaining marine life is under threat due to lack of any food left for them to survive on. Local surfers were the first to spot that something was wrong at the Kalakter beach after about 20 people in a surf camp experienced severe eye burns and symptoms similar to food poisoning. In September, the water changed color to a grayish yellow with a thick milky foam on the surface.
As the race for a coronavirus vaccine rages on across the world, India's drug regulator has refused a proposal from Dr. Reddy's Laboratories Limited to conduct a large study in the country to evaluate Russia's Sputnik-V Covid-19 vaccine and has asked it to first test the vaccine in a smaller trial. India's move comes as a setback for the Russia's plan to roll out the vaccine even before full trials show how well it works, while pushing back its efforts to win approval for the vaccine in the country that leads the world on average number of new infections. India's COVID tally has soared past the 68 lakh mark with 78,524 new cases and 971 deaths reported in the last 24 hours. India is expected to overtake the United States over the next several weeks as the country with the world's largest number of cases.